Thanks. I'm Michael Boeke. I work for Brainree. I'm a product manager and work with design on our products there. If you're not familiar with Brainree, we are a payments platform that makes it essentially very easy for developers to accept payments in their websites or within their mobile apps. And we work with tons of amazing companies that you might use every day, like Uber, who we heard from earlier today, Airbnb, and great retailers like fab.com. We also have a peer-to-peer payments app called Venmo that is just the easiest way to pay friends for things when you owe them money, like splitting a cab ride or splitting a check at the end of dinner, or even things like paying for rent if you've got roommates. And we'll see how this fits into what we do on our payments platform here in a minute. But one of the great things about the group of merchants that we work with is that we've had the chance and the good fortune to work with really some of the leaders and some of the fastest growing companies in mobile commerce. A few that we see here, Uber, which we mentioned before, but also great apps like Hotel Tonight and Airbnb and Fab that are really leaders on mobile commerce. And as we started to work with and partner with these merchants and got to be a part of their growth and their success, it really changed the lens of how we looked at mobile commerce overall on our platform. And we got to spend a lot of time with them looking at their needs and really started realizing that we had to grapple with this important startling truth, which, as Benedict Evans says, mobile's eating the world. It's becoming everything. And it's no surprise, I'm sure, to this crowd that mobile devices are taking over everywhere and becoming the primary means by which users and customers and consumers are spending their time online. But early on when we were starting to work with some of the earliest mobile commerce merchants, a lot of the questions we would get would be around, are people actually shopping on these things? Are they actually making purchases? Or is this about checking email and being online and working on social apps? And what we've found is that by at least one important metric, we've already crossed a tipping point, which is that over half of all time spent shopping online now happens on mobile devices. So this is not really the future that we're starting to look at now, but this is the presence. And it's a trend that we're seeing is only going to accelerate over time. And as we've talked, especially with our retail customers, our retail merchants, we realized that there were really two main challenges that a lot of people were grappling with. And the first was merchandising. How do you show all your wares on this tiny little screen? You've only got maybe 3 to 7 inches of which to be able to communicate with those customers. And then also, how do you get those customers through the data entry required to actually check out and purchase things on a phone? So I want to dive into both of these a little bit. Now, when I think about merchandising on a mobile device, Sturgeon's Law comes up. I don't know if it comes to mind. I don't know if folks are familiar with this, but Sturgeon's Law is 90% of everything is crap, which can apply to many things in life. And I'm sure that all the fine retailers here today have nothing but quality wares in their inventory. But I think where this becomes really applicable to mobile merchandising is that if you're not showing things in context that are relevant to the customer on their tiny little screen, it may as well be crap to them because it's not relevant. And we can kind of see that shift illustrated if we look at the difference between the desktop or laptop shopping experience on a larger screen versus a mobile screen. So here we've got Amazon, the heavyweight king of online retailing. We can see what their homepage looks like for me on a laptop. And I'm sure there's all sorts of data behind this that's trying to optimize this so that I'm most likely to purchase something there. But we can see they don't really have to prioritize that hard because they've got a lot of screen real estate. So I can see 3 different product streams here that they're showing to me, everything from Black Friday deals to book recommendations. And on top of that, there's another 6 essentially advertisements going down on the other side of the screen, from everything from TVs to hurricane relief donation. And if I can't find anything I'm interested in all of that, there's always the giant browse through all of their hundreds or thousands of categories as well. Now, it's kind of like a warehouse club, like a Costco sort of thing. They benefit most from making the most number of things available. Let's contrast that to a retailer who's been really successful online and on their mobile apps and on mobile devices. This is fab.com. And we can see what a shopping page for them looks like on both a tablet and a phone. And they've got one product stream that they're showing here. All the noise has been taken out of the screen. And because they've done a great job of tailoring their products for the audience that they serve, it's full of stuff that at least I would love to get. I'm looking at this Hello Kitty ugly doll here and thinking I ought to buy one of those for my daughter for Christmas. I might do that before the day's over, actually. So there's a real constraint here for what you can show in terms of merchandising, but the good news is that mobile devices, and we've heard this from some of the other speakers today, also provide a lot of contextual data that can make it easier for retailers to present the right thing on these screens. Things like location data, which we heard about from Foursquare, and other things can be combined with the purchasing history and other data from the customer to tailor this merchandising for users. And that's one of the things that we're working on at Brainree. But the thing that we've been more focused on here over the last year is that second challenge that I talked about earlier on, and that's the mobile checkout process. The notion of having to get all of your credit card and shipping info into a little touch screen with a fiddly keyboard. And there, the shift is similar. When you're working on a mobile device and trying to purchase something, you don't have the luxury of a giant keyboard and a large screen, and you're probably not sitting down. You may be wandering around showrooming inside of a store. You might be on a bus or doing anything else that makes it not that easy to physically get information entered into a device to complete the checkout. So we started to think about how can we help improve this for merchants. And we sort of came across this notion, this quote here. It says, when you tell a computer things it can deduce, you're serving the machine. And so we really wanted to create a process where the machine, the mobile devices, the software there was serving users, both the retailers, the merchants who were selling, and the customers who wanted to shop. And so we took that notion, kind of flipped it around, and thought, how can we make it easier, and came up with a product that we call Venmo Touch, which is essentially one-touch payments across mobile apps. And it's really cool. We'll take a little bit of a look here at how it works. So when a customer actually goes to purchase something from an app that's part of the Venmo Touch network, they get a typical sort of checkout screen here where they enter in their payment information one time, card information, potentially billing and shipping address sort of information, enter it once. And then, of course, the next time they come back to make a repeat purchase, that information's been stored securely with Braintree servers. So with one touch, they can reuse that same payment information again. So something we've seen before in other apps. Where this starts to get really cool is when that customer starts to bring down other apps that are part of the Venmo Touch network. Because once they've entered their credit card information in, say, Belly, when they go to make their first purchase and book a hotel room in Hotel Tonight, or go to make their first purchase in Y-Plan, they don't have to re-enter all that information again. In fact, they never have to enter it a first time for each of those subsequent apps, because they can use the same payment information that they entered before and reuse that to make their purchases, taking a huge chunk of the friction out of the purchase flow for those new apps. So some of the other ways that we thought about trying to decrease the friction in this process and make it as great as an experience as possible for both customers and for merchants is that this process doesn't redirect to any sort of separate screen or website or app for the customer to have to be able to opt into this. It's really just part of the checkout flow. And they're not required to sign up for any sort of Venmo account or anything else. It can all happen as part of the checkout flow of the first app that's part of the Venmo Touch network that they're using. And additionally, we're relying on some lightweight but strong verification. That means users don't have to do things like enter in clunky long password strings. Again, would kind of defeat the purpose when working with tiny little touchscreen keyboards. So we've been really excited about what we've seen with the merchants that we've been working with and how this has been a great experience for their customers and also for those merchants to really take a huge barrier out of the purchase process. So there's a ton of innovation and experimentation going on in the payments space right now. I don't know if you've been tracking that at all, but it's been actually a really exciting time. And it's not just startups like Braintree that have been tackling this thing, but also giant technology companies and everybody in between. Everything from software, payments platforms, all the way to hardware and things like we saw Coin launch recently. Sounds kind of funny with a dry subject like payments, but it's actually a really exciting time to be part of this.